Welcome back to Music Talk. I'm Dave.
I'm Elwood. No, I'm Mike.
He's Elwood to date. All right, so this week we're checking out the latest from the Dead Daisies, and this is called Radiance.
Yep.
And it's a super cool album cover, just like their last one. They seem to be killing it. Here's the last album cover. Love that album cover. Always have. This one's just as cool. Maybe not as cool, but it's just as cool. Inside, you got another cool picture. Not really sure what it is. It's really neat, though. It looks like something blowing up almost, right?
Yep.
Maybe it's like a nuclear something, radiance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
On the back, you've got like an eclipse, maybe. And you got the tracks. Love how it's black and white, right? White writing on top of black. How easy is that? You know, can't go wrong with that. And then, of course, the CD looks like this. And it comes with a sticker. I got a sticker. Last week we got a patch. This week I get a sticker. You know, I love that they keep giving me all this cool stuff, right?
Well, you know those rock chips on your paint job on your vehicle. That's where that sticker goes, man.
That's right. Yeah, you got somebody bumps you, throw a sticker on it, right?
That's right. Throw a sticker on it and call it a day.
So here's the album cover again. This is the inside booklet. On the back, you got like the sun blowing up, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the inside, you get these real cool pictures, right? And then you got some like AI people, like a video game people laying on a bunch of skulls there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty interesting.
I wonder if it let her sing.
Then yeah, maybe.
Have you heard about the
And there
you
she
heard
is
about the AI
to,
singers, right?
there she is getting ready to kick your butt, right?
Yeah.
It's like a video game character or something.
Yeah. Radiance.
Yeah. And then here's another picture. And then, of course, the back. So now they pulled this crap last time on us when you bought the CD, and they did it again this time. But this time, they give you 4 songs worth of lyrics. Last time, you didn't get any lyrics. You had to go to their website, right? And they get you on that every time right here. For more, for a full set of lyrics, please visit, Dead Daisies, which, I mean, I guess that's a cool gimmick, but man, it really makes me mad in a way, right? It's like, come on, dude, but how else are you going to get, what better way to get you to go to their site, I guess. And then, I like to complain about stuff, so I'm going to complain. So then when you're looking at the booklet and you go to the 4 songs they don't even have them in order, right? So here's the first song, and then the second song's after it, and then you go to the third song, you got to go this way, and then the fourth one's even further. It's like, I don't know what they did on this, man. It's like, I guess they were just messing with me, is what they were doing. They're like, we're gonna get Dave on this one, so they really got me on this one. But it did give me 4 songs of lyrics this time. So the album, though, last album had all the lyrics on the album because you got 2 records,
Right.
Which, by the way, they seem to mess with me every time, because when I bought that record last time, I put it on my stereo and it was slow. And I thought my record player was broke. So I bought another record player and I put it on. It was still slow. Well, they recorded the record in 45.
45.
It doesn't say that on the record anywhere. So they made me buy another record player.
It's funny that you say that, because our granddaughter Nika, she likes this band Weezer.
Mm-hmm.
So I go out and I bought her the latest Weezer album. Well, it sat for a couple of weeks, still in the cellophane. Well, the other day I broke it out. It's 45.
Yeah.
It's only 6 songs on the whole damn thing.
Right. And that's why they're coming with 2 albums now on these records, because they record them in 45, but they don't tell you on the record.
I got to tell you, it sounds better, man.
It does, because you're using a lot more grooves,
Right.
But at least tell me, so I don't have to go buy another record player, right? I mean, it messed me up, man. I really did think it was broken. Look, so I didn't think to put another record on, because I'm stupid that way, right? I could have put another record on, but I didn't. Anyway, I love Dead Daisies, man. You can see I got the old T-shirt when I bought the package last time, and this record, I mean, it's definitely a Dead Daisies record, right?
Oh my God!
I
It
do have
rock,
some stuff I'll talk about later that annoyed me a little bit about the record, but I mean, I still loved it. Thought it
it
was a great.
rocks from front to back,
Yeah.
and that's all I got to say. And I love Brian Tishy's playing on
Yep.
this album. The
Yep.
drum tones, the licks that he's throwing in there, just his groove in general. It's just like it is made in heaven for this band. You know,
And the same people that recorded and produced the last record did it again. It's all the same characters, all the same people, the same guy playing keyboards that played on the last one, produced, recorded, mixed. Every one of these guys is the exact same people that did the last one. The only
good.
difference is Brian Tichy instead of Dean Castanova.
Yeah.
So and I thought it was a great sounding record. You know, we'll run through these real quick. We're not going to go into a whole lot of history of them because if y'all want to check out the stuff we talked about last time, go back and look at the Dead Daisies Holy Ground
Well, the
review
thing
we
is
did.
too, I mean,
Yeah,
Dead Daisies, they're a super group. So I mean, it's the
they are.
just do a little research.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, you go check out our last one we did on Holy Ground. We talked a little bit more about some of the stuff. I mean, you still got Dave Lloyd, Doug Aldrich, and Glenn Hughes, and then you
yep.
added Brian Tichy, and you're rolling again, right?
I'm glad they got rid of Dean.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. Well, they didn't get rid of him. I think he left to go with Journey,
Yeah.
which is probably the worst thing he could have done at this point. But
Yeah, that big old mess they got going.
yeah, well, no,
But anyway,
that's a whole nother show.
that's another show. We could have done that show, but I chose not to do the Journey CD last year. So
Yeah.
anyway, well, it starts out with the first song, Face Your Fear. Got this, it starts out with this little funky echo intro guitar thing, and then it just smacks you with this great groove, man. Great
Oh
storm
yeah.
song, you know, all the classic Dead Daisy sounds. And then you get to the second one, Hypnotize Yourself. And man, this chorus, man, the chorus, the way Glenn sings it is freaking phenomenal, dude. I mean, I've been singing this chorus for like 2 weeks in my head now. It's driving me crazy. Which, by the
Well,
way, we're a little late on this review. We
yeah.
picked it up. We should have done it last year, but it was,
Yeah.
I think it came out late last year and we just didn't get around to it.
I could see Glenn Hughes right now though performing this. He's got
Yeah.
the one hand up in the air while he's playing bass on the open strings
Yeah.
and singing his ass off.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, man.
Yeah. I'm sure they're coming around and I'm going to catch them again because I
Well,
caught
I
them
hope so.
last year and it was awesome. So,
Well, they're in Europe right now. They're
yeah.
doing the UK
Yeah.
tour. Um,
But
I
yeah.
just I don't know why the West Coast isn't getting a lot of these shows. It's weird, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they hit one or two places, like they hit Seattle, and then they'll hit Los Angeles. It's like, well, what about everything in between?
Right. I know. And who wants to go pay all that money at the big venues, driving all that way and all that mess?
Yeah.
I know. So then we get to number 3, Shine On. They actually picked up the pace a little bit on this one.
Mhm.
Then when they get to that chorus and they go to halftime, that's a really nice. I like the way they drop that halftime on the chorus, but then halfway through the chorus they pick it back up. Good song, good rocking song. Shine On.
Isn't this one Brian Tishy was started out doing the tom tom thing?
No, that's on the 5th one, Born to Fly.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. But then we get to go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just in love with his drumming. I'm all over it. I'm like, I mean, because it's not complicated. It's there and
Yeah.
it's in the groove and it's very tasteful.
For sure.
All over.
He's got a great foot, man.
Yeah, he does.
And he can play, he places the bass drum in perfect spots. You
Yep.
know, it fills in gaps. Even when he does a little quick stop, you know, like a you know, it's like his foot is phenomenal.
Yep.
You know, I know you talked earlier when we were off the air talking about his double bass drum stuff, but I didn't even really notice much double bass drum. I actually thought it was all one foot.
Now well, I mean, it's not impossible to do what he did with one foot, but you'd have to have a monster foot. But
yeah,
no, I really do believe he was using double bass drum pedal.
And he probably was, and I didn't really
stuff.
catch it much, you know.
It was because he didn't go above 16th notes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't there. He wasn't doing blast beats. He was doing fills.
Yeah, and the way he can subtly bring that stuff in, you don't, it's not, it doesn't stick out. It's part of the song,
Right, right.
and that's what I loved about him too. Now
Yeah.
here, the fourth song, to me, this is where the album really starts getting good. I mean, I like the first three songs, but
Yep.
Radiance, man. I mean, if you ever want to know what a Dead Daisy song sounds like, put this one on. This is Dead Daisy.
Almost spilled my beer.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. That's a lot of IPA to spill.
Well,
It'll be triple the mess.
that's a lot of equipment to be cleaning up too.
For sure. Yeah. Might not want to put it on that table.
Yeah, well, shit,
So this one though, man, this Radiance, I love the deep low growl crunch he's got on it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Tool's The Pot song, with that doom doom down. I just kind of reminded me of that. But the drums on this one, man, the ghost notes on the snare.
Oh my God.
It's just like, oh man, and the chorus was just classic Glenn Hughes. And it reminded me a little bit of like Dio when he was with Sabbath type sound.
Yeah.
It has that sound. Glenn Hughes sang with Tony Iommi for a little while.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But
Well, I guess they called it Black Sabbath, but originally wasn't supposed to be. But
yeah.
anyway,
But I was going to ask you, do you think that, and honestly, I don't believe they were, but do you think they were using 7-string guitars with drop tuning and stuff?
they're definitely dropped down to at least a D.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they were using sevens. I think they were just tuning down. This one definitely is tuned down to a D.
Well, Glenn's definitely down in the basement.
They're definitely stepping down a little more than what he would
mean,
be.
he's down there in the basement. I'm telling you.
Yeah, on the bass. So I'm thinking he's probably got one of them hip shot basses where he can drop it to a D real quick, because I'm pretty sure he did that live. But they're definitely down. And I mean, I wouldn't say no that they don't have 7-string. They very well could, because there's a lot of low registers on this record, especially this song.
And I mean, this song made me think about that, but the approach to the playing doesn't warrant using the 7-string.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, because I mean, it's just, I just think they're tuning down is what I'm thinking, and they're getting that, and that's what's giving them that deep growl, man.
Right.
So, and I love that, because I'm a bass guy, so the lower you go, hey, I'm happy. Bring them all down.
I'm all about everybody getting down low, because that means I can pull every bit of stuffing out of my bass drum and just let it go.
Yeah.
Right. I'm serious. I'm go for it, dude.
Yep, let's get it. How low can you go, right?
That's right.
But then we get to number 5. This is the one you were talking about with the drum intro.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, I thought the drum intro was okay. It kind of sounded like, typical. But when they start the song after the intro is when it really kicks in for me.
Mm-hmm.
So they stop everything and the guitar does his little thing. And then, dude, Brian just kills it on this song, man.
Yeah.
I mean, especially at the beginning of the solo and that breakdown, he is just ripping it. And then the hi-hat that he's doing behind the breakdown is unbelievable, man. I mean, it's just so clean. And it's just tearing it up, man. The last Dead Daisies album, they had a great drum sound. So whatever they're doing in this studio is freaking unbelievable, because these drums are awesome. And the snare is like, it has the perfect pitch for what they're doing.
Yeah, it's got the perfect smack and pitch at the same time. And that's hard to accomplish.
Yeah.
And the bass drum, and I noticed it more on this album than I did the last one, but this album here, I'm telling you right now, every time he kicked that bass drum, it came through with tons of punch, but there was definite a note around that punch that just kept resonating.
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, you
And,
know, it's just, I don't know.
and
I,
when I was
I,
blasting it in the car, dude, you could feel that bass drum, man. I
I'm
mean,
sure,
the seat was just like,
I'm sure.
it
Oh,
was
I'm
like,
sure.
holy crap, that thing
You
sounded
know,
so good.
now Brian's got it down to a science, man. He's whatever he's doing,
Yeah.
and I hope I get to watch him play one day because I want to steal whatever it is he's doing.
You may have already seen him play and don't even realize it, as many people as he's played with.
Well, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but
So
it,
yeah,
it's,
he's great.
I mean, he right now to me, he's one of these guys that's just like, okay, when I went to see Steely Dan 2 years in a row, it's like, like, okay, yeah, I've got to go check out the drummer,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Right.
you
So
know,
and I'm not gonna compare him to the guy they got on Queensryche right now, the drummer that's playing with Queensryche, but
like,
they remind me of each other because they're so freaking good at and how easily they can do things, you know. Because
well,
that guy for Queensryche, man, is killing it, you know, and he had a great sound.
I
So
know Brian Teshy went to Berkeley College Music.
yeah,
I know he went to Berkeley.
right.
Uh, I've heard him talk about it a couple of different times,
Yeah.
and I I would love to know what they're telling these guys when they set them loose.
Well,
Because there's so much music out there, and it's like, okay, how do you develop that approach, that dynamic, that tuning, that dance that you do behind the drums?
mhm,
And
yeah.
I mean, what I'm saying is you can take all the school, all the college that you want. It doesn't happen unless it's in your pocket,
Yeah.
unless it's something that you grew up feeling in the very beginning. And that's why I say I'd just love to know what they're saying to these guys that are graduating.
Well,
Going,
I tell you, Brian, man, I mean, he has played with freaking everybody, dude. I mean,
yeah,
he's done fill-ins for people. I mean, he's filled in for the Guess Who, Foreigner, Velvet Revolver, Ozzy Osbourne, Whitesnake, Slash. I mean, he's played every kind of music everywhere.
yep.
He's played with Derek Sheridan, whatever his name is. I can never pronounce his last name, man. The keyboard player.
I know,
You
I know
know,
who you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
mean, he's done it all, dude. I mean, the guy's unbelievable drummer.
there he
And
is.
his foot is what drew me in because that bass drum sounded so freaking good, man. The whole set sounded good, but man, that
Well,
foot.
the bass drum is what automatically draws my attention to any drummer.
Yeah.
And then to me, the snare sounds secondary
Hmm.
because I mean, you can have a good day with a snare and a bad day with a snare,
Right.
but a bass drum,
Yeah. When you dial it in,
it, I mean, it's there, and all you got to do is tame it compared to whatever room that you're in.
yeah.
A
Yep.
snare, you have to really rework a snare a lot of times
Yeah.
when you walk in different rooms.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
So that I just thought he killed it on that one, man. And then we get to number 6, Kiss the Sun. And that bass line, man, I love the driving bass line in that one.
yep.
This part of the album, I feel like they're starting to breathe more. The first part of the album was kind of all flow the same. You still get the same kind of flow through the whole record, but with this one, you got the driving bass line, and then we get to Courageous, which is what it was to me was the best riff on the record.
Oh yeah.
Man, that freaking riff, man. I was like, holy crap, right?
Yep. Yep.
Had a very catchy chorus, and then, I love how they let it breathe with just the drums and vocals. I mean, there
Mhm.
was a lot of time on this song where it was just drums and vocals.
I know.
And
I
I
know.
was like, I love that.
But that's what I'm saying. They got a master on drums, and they
Yeah,
know it, and they're letting him shine.
for
And
sure.
he's not overdoing it. You know, he's
And
not.
from 5 on, man, it's just all the Brian Tichy show to me.
Yeah, well, to me it was too.
I mean, the
That's why I love
second
this album.
yeah, the second half of this record was just he was just killing it, man.
Yep,
When
yep.
we get to number 8 was Cascade. This reminded me so much of like a Dio song that I could hear Dio singing it. You know, the way they were letting it breathe in there, it sounded
Right.
again like Sabbath Dio type. They had this little triangle going in the back. I don't know if you heard that. Had a
Yeah, I
little
heard it.
triangle going.
I heard it. Yep, yep. And I was like, who's playing percussion?
Prime Tichy. Who do you think?
Yeah.
Uh, so then,
Molly's.
and the verse and the riff, man, again, was I love the verse. I didn't think the chorus was all that great on this one, but it was okay. But the rest of the song made up for it.
Yeah.
So it was one of the choruses that I didn't care for in this record, but man, the rest of the song was just awesome. And then we get to
Not
Not
human.
Human, right? So I think they must have wrote this about Brian because they really let him rip this one, man. He's got like the end of this thing, man. He just solos,
Yeah.
It's like just do whatever you want, dude, and he just rips it. It's crazy. And then we get to number 10, Roll On.
That's
So
their
this is
ballad.
it
That's their
reminded me
ballad.
of Greg Allman, man. He sounded like Greg Allman singing on this.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. I thought that he was letting one of the other guys on guitar sing, because it did not sound like Glenn Hughes.
Yeah, well, I kind of listened to it, and it reminds me of the last song they had on the last album. You remember how you talked about how you thought it was like a movie song, like a movie score song.
Right, right.
This one is almost the same kind of feel. It felt like a movie song to me, and the way he sang it reminded me of like Greg Allman, almost like an Allman Brothers slow ballad song.
Yep, yep.
And this one's a little different than the rest of the record. It even sounded different on how they recorded it. You had a lot of strings going on in there. I don't know. It was weird because it's just like the last record. The whole record rocked, and then they get to that last song, and it sounds like a movie opus or something.
Yep.
But again, you know, great record. I've got some goods and bads, of course. I have probably more bads than I should, but first thing I would say is it wasn't a lot of dynamics. The album was kind of the same meter all the way through. You got a little faster and slower, but there was only like maybe 2 time signatures to the whole record. Your meters were pretty close to the same, but that's fine. That's what they did. It was a rock record, so you got rock songs. It didn't have as much guitar separation as I wanted. The last record, you could always hear 2 guitar parts at all times. This one, there was only like 2 songs where you only had 2 guitar parts. Most everything else, they kind of echoed each other, followed each other. And I really wish they wouldn't have done that because I love that so much on the last record that when David Lowie's playing one part, Doug Aldrich is doing another thing, So you could always hear 2 guitar parts, but on this record they didn't do that much. Maybe 1 song or 2 at most. But all the rhythms were pretty much identical on both guitars. Mm-hmm. You had good separation of who was in what ear, but the parts were the same. And the last record they made a point not to do the same parts. So that kind of I missed that on this record, And then some of the verses I felt like Glenn's was a little muddy sounding. I couldn't hardly hear the words sometimes. It's almost like some slurring, not really slurring, but it just wasn't as defined.
I know what you're talking about, and that's that's what I'm talking about. Where it almost seemed to me like, and I mean, I know I'm wrong at this point, but I mean, I went into this thinking that Glenn was allowing somebody else in the band to do some singing.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't sound like Glenn.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a lot of times in there where I'm like, I couldn't even understand what he was saying. and it wasn't as the volume was like almost down on some of it. But then when he goes into his higher register and starts kicking them choruses, he was crystal clear,
Right.
and it was right out front. So I was
Right.
having a little issue with the verses on some of them because of that fact. I wish they would have projected him more a little bit.
Well, they might be having issues with, because he does have such a huge range vocally.
Yeah,
I'm matching him up with a good mic.
could be. It could be, but I know when he comes in there on them choruses, man, he is belting them like nothing. It's like he's 30 years old again, dude.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then and I know he's probably straining his voice a little bit. He's been touring a lot last year, and then
Yeah.
they did the record. So I don't know. Those are just a few things, I felt like the production might have been a little more production this time than last time. Last time felt more like a live feel. This one you could hear a lot of overproduction in some areas, mainly on guitars, I think. But
I do believe that they were showcasing Brian Teshy a little bit,
so
uh,
the
to
first,
take up for Dean Castronova.
yeah,
Going back to Journey. I mean, I wish him all the best.
well, and I even thought Dean sounded great on the last record.
He did.
I didn't really have
He
a
did.
problem with him on the last record.
Dean's a good drummer.
Yeah,
Uh, I'll hand him that.
and his
I
sound
do
was
know
great.
I
So
do know that, on the other side of things, the behind scenes things, he's dealt with drug abuse and alcohol.
yeah,
Uh, he's had some issues with domestic violence and stuff like that. And I
that's
think he's
all.
overcome. I think he's
That's
overcome all
all
of
alleged. We can't
that.
say
Yeah.
that. It's
No,
alleged.
wasn't alleged. They arrested him out here. I
Yeah,
remember
but
remember seeing it on the news.
being
But
arrested and being convicted are two different things.
well, my point is that, um, yeah, he's had a rough road,
Mhm.
and that's why he had to leave Journey in the beginning.
Right.
It's because of that. And now he's back with, and I don't wish that kind of scenario on any musician, what he settled in with,
Yeah.
because they're that's nothing but a battleground right now.
Yeah.
And the only reason why that band walks on stage at this point is to keep the money rolling in. And
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
It's got to
Well,
be the love of the music,
right.
and that's not what it is. And that's why I'm glad that Brian Teshy took this gig.
Yeah. So when I get to the good on this, it starts out with how great the drums sound is my first great good on this record.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
the recording was great. It was a great sounding record. Glenn's voice, when he's really belting it out, it's just as great as it ever was. His bass playing's right there.
Gosh.
Guitars were very consistent. They're very good. Both good guitar players. But the number one thing on this record for me was Brian Tichy.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he was the highlight of this record.
Yep.
And man, he just went off on this record, man. And I'm glad because it really gave me something to listen to. I think the songs were great, but I do like the last one better than this one. I don't hate this one. I think it's a great record. I wish there would have been a little more dynamics. A couple more songs could have been slower. They had a lot of the same tempo on everything, but man, it's just a great rock record, though. I mean, it's not a song on here that I didn't like, you know.
I think I'm leaning on this one a little bit heavier because of the fact that I like the fact that they allowed the drummer in general, not because of who the drummer is,
Yeah,
but in general, to just have a little free reign
yeah, and he
and
took it
dictate what the songs are doing, you
right.
know.
Yeah,
And I think Brian Teshy did a great job on doing that.
yeah,
Uh, now, as far as the last album, I think it's not 180 out from the last album,
No,
but there is enough of a spin to make it different.
yeah. Well, you could definitely hear the elements, same elements with the Glenn Hughes factor, you know.
Right. Right.
Um, I guess I probably like the last one better because it surprised me so much. When I put
Right.
that thing on, it just kicked me in the face the whole time.
Right.
And then
Right.
coming into this one, I'm definitely comparing it way too much to the last one, which I shouldn't do. Um, but with that being said, they in 1 year's time, maybe 2 year and a half, whatever, they came out with another great record with another drummer, you know, and it's like, you know, it's hard to do that. And they did it. Meanwhile, touring the whole time, you know.
Yeah.
So, and Glenn Hughes is in his 70s, man. I mean, he's
Yeah.
still killing it, you know.
I'd love to see his notebook that he carries around. You
I
know,
think it's all up there.
it's like okay, you meet a songwriter or you become a songwriter, and the
Yeah,
first thing you learn is that okay, you don't ever put out your best stuff,
yeah,
and I mean that's always what you keep in your hip pocket
yeah,
because when things start getting rough, you pull out you pull out the dynamite.
yeah.
You
Right.
here it is,
Yeah,
you know. But you only pull that out when you're ready to walk away afterwards, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, again, I know I was dogging a little bit of this record, but man, I love this record, and I'm giving it an 8.9. You know, I just liked it that much. It's still getting an 8.9 for me. You know,
Yeah. Well,
so
I'm gonna give it a 9, you
yeah,
know. I'm not gonna give it a 10, but I'm gonna give it a 9.
yeah. I mean, again, the first couple times I heard it, I just kind of listened to it, but then man, I really started getting into it, and the more I hear it, the more I like it. And then tomorrow, I'll like it a little more because I mean, you start picking out more things as you go, and man, some of the grooves on here, when they're just letting it go, man, it's like,
Oh yeah,
dang,
yeah.
man, that dude's freaking killing them drums, man.
Yep, he
You
is.
know, so I don't know. I just thought it was cool. I thought it was a great record. Again, I compared it way too much to the first one, or not the first one, but the last one they did, the first one with Glenn Hughes.
Right.
But again, they killed it. They brought it, and I mean, you got 10 great songs again. You know, so not much more I got to say on it, other than
No,
go
well,
get it,
you
buy
go
it.
get it.
Yep, a lot of people don't
And
even know it's out there. So
well, here's the other thing too. Little sidebar. Glenn Hughes is still dealing with Black Country Communion.
yeah,
You know, he's got his hands in so many different projects, and
yeah,
he is always the featured frontman
yeah,
singer
yeah,
in every one of these acts. And what I'm trying to lay out here is what you hear right now with the Dead Daisies. Tomorrow, you can go pick up a Black Country Communion album and hear Glenn Hughes again
yeah,
that penned those songs. And it is a total 180 out from what you heard with this band,
mm-hmm.
but it's all in the same genre.
Yeah.
And he just kills it, man.
Well,
He he doesn't get old, you know. I can remember back in the 60s listening to him in trapeze.
yeah,
And then I remember when he went with Deep Purple
mm-hmm.
and he did not want to sing.
Yeah. Well, it's you know he did the same thing when he went with Black Sabbath. You know, he sang for Tony Iommi. Next thing you know, he's on the road with him as Black Sabbath, and he's like, I don't even know how to just sing without playing bass. You know, it's like,
Right, right.
you know, I'm used to just put my bass on and going, and he didn't even want to do that. But you know, we talked about it before. There's certain people that take a band and turn it into them. You know, you have the Dio. No matter who Dio was with, it turned into Dio. You know, he did
Right,
his
right.
thing with it.
It was Ronnie James Dio. It wasn't
Right,
Deep Purple. It
right.
was whatever, you know, it was
Rainbow or
Ronnie
whoever.
James. It's
Yeah.
Ronnie James Dio.
And that's what Glenn does. I mean, when he
Yes.
goes to a project, it becomes his project, you know.
Yes.
So
Yep.
he's just one of those guys, man, you know.
But
So
that's why these bands reach out to people like Glenn Hughes,
that's
you
right.
know, because they know it's going to put them on the map. It's going to
Mhm.
put them out front. And if Glenn Hughes accepts, if he accepts the job, then obviously you got the musicians in the band that are going to carry the weight.
Exactly.
So he's going to sell you.
Yeah. And you know,
And,
David Lowy, man, I mean, he's been carrying this Dead Daisies band. I mean, it's his band basically, him and Doug Aldrich, you know.
mm-hmm.
So, you know, I give props to David Lowy on this too, man, because he's still out there getting it. You know, he's
Yeah,
still carrying Dead Daisies right to the top, man. You know. And again, Doug Aldrich is killing it on guitar, lead guitar. I mean, he's ripping, you know.
the
So
guy's a monster on guitar, man.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
freaking. I mean,
And I
I
saw
don't.
them live, man, and they sound just as good live as they did on the record.
I'm sure.
You know, it's
I'm sure.
unbelievable.
I would like to know who they're carrying around with them as far as their techs. You
Yeah.
know, are they carrying a sound man with them, or are they subjecting themselves to the house sound? I do not believe they're doing that at
Well,
all.
maybe not. I mean, they probably do have one guy that comes around, and nowadays with PAs the way they are, it's a little easier to set up. But these dudes are only traveling with two guitars, a bass, and drums, man. It ain't a whole lot of production, you know.
Right.
I mean, they're just plugging in and going. They're just
Well,
going it. I mean, even Doug don't even he doesn't even use a whole lot of effects on his
it's just
guitar.
like it's just like the two times that I went to up to Merriweather to see Steely Dan. Both times they had their studio engineer
Yeah,
running the monitors for him,
right.
which means that he was directing the main house mix too.
Yeah.
Um, and believe me,
Yeah.
they sound just like their albums, you know.
Well,
Uh,
the thing about Dead Daisies is they don't do a lot of tricks, man. I mean, they just put their amp up there, plug in, and then just let it rip, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And that's what you want from a rock band. I mean, you don't have a lot of effects going on. You know, Glenn Hughes plugs his bass in and just starts singing. You know, there's not a lot of effects on his voice. There's not a lot of effects on anything. I mean, the
yeah.
drums are probably the hardest thing to do.
Well, with Glenn Hughes, you know, the bass is the asset.
Yes,
Singing's what you're hiring him for.
that's right. But he's still a great bass player too, though.
Oh yeah, oh
You
yeah,
know,
oh yeah. But I'm just saying, I mean,
right. You're
and
not watching him for the bass. You're watching
that,
him because he's singing.
that's why he didn't want to sing in Deep Purple. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, because he didn't want to be known for his vocal work at that time for some reason. I don't know what the deal was, even though he was part of Burn, you know, and all that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you're following in the footsteps of Ian Gillan. You got David Coverdale on stage. I mean, you
Yeah,
know, he at that point, maybe he was a little intimidated. Who knows? You know, I don't know why he would ever be because he was just as good then as he is now. I mean,
yeah, well, yeah. I
you know,
mean, yeah, rock the house, man.
yeah. Or he could have just been tired of carrying it for a while and said, "You take it," you know.
Yeah.
So, you
Well,
know,
he definitely had the higher and the bigger range than David Coverdale.
yeah.
I mean, the only thing I think David Coverdale had going for him, he had a good voice. I mean,
I
uh,
like David Coverdale. I think he's got a great voice. You know,
you know,
I don't know why they put the two together though. I just
I
couldn't
know
figure.
that always puzzled me. It's like
Yeah,
you're canceling one out with the other. You know, it's like
right. Yeah, I mean, you
and
got don't take all the good singers. You know.
yeah, but it wasn't long lived though.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. All right, well, we'll wrap it up. Dead Daisies, Radiance. Go get it. It's got to have it for your collection. I'll probably buy it on vinyl too, so I
Exactly.
can get all the
I'm
lyrics and
yeah.
maybe
Well,
they'll give me all the lyrics on the vinyl.
yeah. Well, you got to have the vinyl too, because you can slow it down and
Yeah,
figure out what the hell they're
on
doing.
33. Yep.
But no,
Well, I gave it a 8.9. Mike gave it a 9.0. Go check it
I
out.
gave it,
Dead
I
Daisies.
gave it a 9.
Yep.
And let me tell you something. Go out there, yeah, definitely check it out.
Mhm.
And just I'll tell you this: go on their website, order some merchandise. You'll get a fucking gift, I guess.
Yeah, he's getting a
I mean,
gift.
I'm getting a gift. I have no idea. All it is buy a t-shirt.
Look, when I bought the album last time, I got like 20 things in the mail. And it's like, they were just giving me stuff, So I'm like, I'll take it. So,
That's right.
and
So
then I
rock
met
and
them
roll.
I met them after the show, and they were all cool dudes. And go support them. If you get a chance, go check them out because they're awesome live too.
That's right.
All right. Well, until next time, y'all stay safe.
Peace out. Listen to the music.